And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director Bridgette Readel. On this Wednesday, October 15th, temperatures out there about 51 degrees here, and we're not going to move too much further up into the mid-50s. Should be a dry day, though, and kind of cloudy out there. It feels more like it should for the middle of October. Bridgette, you're on the road again. Looks like you're out in the middle of a field there.
Pretty close. That would be corn behind me, a ditch beside me. But when you say a dry day, I don't know. There's sprinkles on my windshield.
Where are you at?
I am in northwestern Cass County. I'm actually not too terribly far from home, but
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, there has been a little drizzle reported from time to time, but no areas of organized rain, and that's good news. But that is going to change, it looks like, as we head into the overnight hours and also into tomorrow. We're looking at temperatures today, again, kind of stuck in the mid-50s with a southeast wind on the light side, a little drizzle here and there. And then tonight, we're going to see showers push into the area after midnight, most likely right around sunrise, the way it looks right now, with lows only in the low 50s. And we'll have southeast winds increasing 10 to 20. And then tomorrow, we'll see scattered showers and maybe a few thunder showers, mainly in the morning and then again in the evening. I think we'll see some dry hours in between, with highs in the upper 60s to near 70, and then breezy and dry on Friday. Southwest winds 20 to 30 and highs in the mid to upper 60s. And then Saturday, the cold front comes through, and we're looking at northwest winds increasing and cooler with highs only in the 50s. And then Sunday, that's the pick day of the weekend, with temps right around 60 with sunshine and lighter winds. So if you have weekend plans, Sunday definitely the better of the 2 days. Any rain we get looks to be minor, quarter inch or so. So not a big deal. Boy, the western part of the state, though, Watford City, Dickinson areas, those areas could pick up an inch and a quarter of rainfall over the next day and a half. So they're the ones that are going to get the most robust rainfall totals out of this storm system.
I would tell you that there are a number of folks in western North Dakota very diligently working quickly to finish their soil sampling right now before that rainfall starts to come. They're trying to get as much done as possible because we know that freeze up isn't too terribly far away, and that'll really put a damper on that field work we're trying to get done. So very active as far as soil sampling is concerned out to the west. I realize I completely missed my opportunity when Dean said, "Bridgette, where are you at today?" Forgot to tell you that the FBI does not allow me to reveal all my locations all the time.
Are they
I probably should have said that
Are they
sooner.
still looking for you? I thought
Looking for me or you. Maybe I'm the one who's being sneaky.
Yeah, right.
Never know.
Oh, no doubt. So, and yeah, we've got. In fact, Bridgette, I was looking long term, and by long term, I'm talking over the next week to 10 days, and I don't see any really cold air. There's cool air masses coming, but nothing that signals a widespread freeze or frost over the next 10 days. So that puts us almost to the end of the month at the 25th. So areas that haven't had their first widespread frost or freeze, we're not going to see it for a while. And I do see signs of change as we get towards the end of the month. After the 25th, I do see, and it's about time. I mean, we've gone long enough, really, without any widespread frost or freeze, at least in our area. Obviously, areas out to our west and north have already seen a good hard frost or freeze, but boy, we haven't seen much at all from the FM area south and into Lakes country, so we're a little overdue, to say the least.
Well, I think we're probably pushing 65 to 70% completion on sugar beet harvest, and I say that because the overall American Crystal Factory District was at 55% on Friday, so we've certainly increased quite a bit. And I would venture a guess that those guys are okay. Cold air mass is one thing. Getting into a freeze situation where we would have trouble taking beets out of the ground because of that cold temperature, and we don't want beets to get frozen because if sugar beets are frozen in their storage piles, that deteriorates very quickly. So they're probably okay with it. This does make it a little bit easier. Every once in a while, you're seeing corn dryers having to run because we're taking off just a little bit higher moisture, and this is a lot easier than combining in snow. Personally speaking, I haven't had to dig my carrots yet, so they're nicely stored right in the ground. My carrots and sweet potatoes are still hanging out for fun.
Interesting.
We'll see how they do.
What's the longest, do you recall, what's the longest you've gone where you haven't had to take them out?
Haven't had to dig them? Oh, I've gone into November.
Have
Yeah,
you really?
you can
Okay.
actually. Oh yeah, yep. They're in a great spot. They're well insulated right now. In fact, the ground's hard. I'd probably have to pour water over them to be able to dig them up very well, because the ground is so solid. It'd be tough to get them out. And I'm on what would be considered the beach of Glacial Lake Agassiz. So for me, I have a pretty good loam with still some clay content in there, and that truly would hold that soil together for me. So I'm sure if our friend Sarah's listening, at this point she has completely diagnosed my entire soil structure and schematics. She'll be texting me shortly with exactly if I have what I have that's not a Fargo clay but something else. She'll name it. I know I will hear from Sarah very soon. She'll make sure I know exactly what my soil type is.
Well, don't get
And
in trouble now.
no, no, no. And so for those who want to send their questions and comments like our friend Sarah might, you can reach us on the JLA Insurance phone line. That is 701-293-9000. Dean and I take your emails, ag@flagfamily.com or weather@flagfamily.com. And we get comments from many of you who are watching our live streams. Those you can be found on Facebook or YouTube at WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. We also live stream on Acres TV every day. And if you've missed an episode, you can always go back to their free app. It's the Netflix of Agriculture, and you will find ourselves and many other ag content shows. Again, that's on Acres TV. So right now, we're gonna have a fairly good day of information as usual. We have Wednesday weather trivia that's coming up. We also will be talking with our guest who's going to join us here after a little while, and that is Rogan Tokach. He is with the NDSU School of Natural Resources and Science. We're going to have to ask Rogan if he's used to being called Dr. Tokach yet, because that's still maybe a little bit of a new term for him. So we'll want to visit about that. As far as headlines are concerned in agriculture, well, here's one for you. Kubota Tractor Company. They've come out with what they are calling the first hydrogen-powered autonomous tractor for use in Japan. All right. Why does this matter? Well, there's a number of things. First of all, agriculture in Japan sees aging farmers more so than we even see in the United States. Average age of farmers in Japan is 67 years old. Here in the United States, it's about 57 or 58. And rural communities really have a loss of young workers as they move into more urban areas. So fields have been left fallow because they don't have available labor. One of the ways that their government wants to help change that direction is by working with companies like Kubota Tractor to bring this hydrogen powered tractor out to the field. It has this autonomous ability so that it can work in specific areas running off, and it's completely cabless, by the way. So it's very different than what we see with some of the autonomy here in the United States. It's guided by the GPS, LiDAR, cameras, and it uses AI so it can plow, plant, and cultivate with incredibly high precision. What are some of those drawbacks? Well, when you're going from a hydrogen fuel, or excuse me, from a diesel engine to a hydrogen fuel, do you have the supply of the hydrogen? It's not like we can find EV stations everywhere, and it would be the same if you're trying to find this particular fuel. So for refueling, you'd have to have an on-the-farm hydrogen production unit or a regional hub that could give widespread adoption. Also, expense. Right now, bringing this tractor to adoption would cost us 30 to 40% more than what we're buying for traditional diesel-powered engines. Large-scale farming operations could justify it. Smaller farms will certainly see it as a barrier to entry. So we will watch to see as this moves forward if it's the right fit or not. That particular size tractor would probably work well in some of our orchards and specialty markets here in the United States, if in fact someone has an interest in it. Monarch Tractor out of California, which works on an electric tractor idea, may also be investigating that hydrogen tractor option as well. But I've seen hydrogen to fuel generators and other items, so the technology is there. The availability of fuel might not be as great as everybody else expects, but we're going to see what that leads to and much, much more. So keep that in mind. That is the first fully autonomous, we're talking no cab, hydrogen powered tractor from Kubota. Well, we'll have more to talk about when we return after the American Ag Network's livestock report. We'll want to pick that up today, and you can rejoin us in just a few moments here on Weather and Ag in Focus from the Coral Laundromat Studio. Farming is dirty. Coral Laundromat over on Veterans Boulevard will help to keep you clean. Well, I hope things are running smoothly on your farm, and I hope that you've had an opportunity to go to techsupportfarm.com and check out the fence check assessment because you may need to make some decisions about your cybersecurity. You may want to give Chris a call over there at Tech Support Farm because he can certainly help you out, make good decisions, and prevent a loss of funds. In times like we're having right now, economics matter, and you don't want somebody getting into your security systems, your finances and taking dollars that don't belong to them. So again, go over to techsupport.farm and check them out. Well, we are joined in studio today by Dr. Rogan Tokach. I'm going to have to practice that, Rogan. I'll get it right yet. He is with the NDSU School of Natural Resources Sciences. And tell us a little bit about your area of study. This I find fascinating.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to be here at NDSU now, and my area of study is applied honeybee research. So I'm an 80% research position with a 20% extension appointment. So it's really doing some of that applied honeybee research to help out North Dakota beekeepers, and then taking that research that I learn and doing that, and then taking that actually out to the beekeepers and working with those stakeholders to really help, especially that commercial beekeeping industry, which is so important in North Dakota.
Okay, when you say applied research, what does that mean? Just that the research you're doing goes directly out to the end user?
So the applied research factor really means that I'm going out working directly with those stakeholders on their colonies. So when I say applied, that means a lot of times I'm working with them in their colonies, doing different research projects directly on their colonies. I'm not as so much as doing things more theoretical in the lab. I'm actually going out and testing them in kind of the real world situations and seeing how those real world situations add up, and then communicating that back to the overall commercial beekeepers.
And what makes the research different up here? What's different with beekeeping up here than it is in other parts of the country?
So North Dakota is extremely unique in the number of colonies that it has and the number of commercial beekeepers that it has. So North Dakota is by far and away the #1 honey producing state, and it's not very close. They double up in terms of pounds of honey production, South Dakota, which is #2. So it is extremely, they are #1 with a bullet. And they had this year registered over 820,000 colonies in the state alone over this summer. So there's just a huge number of colonies that come into the state. And so what's really interesting and unique about North Dakota as well is that in a lot of these other states that have extension programs for honeybees is that they're really focused a lot on hobby beekeepers as well. But North Dakota is really unique because it's split almost 50-50 between the number of commercial beekeepers and hobby beekeepers, and that is not seen really in any other state. Usually the hobby beekeepers completely outnumber the number of commercial beekeepers.
And why is North Dakota #1? Is it because we're so sweet up here?
There's a few reasons. One of it's because they have a lot of rangeland forage available, especially in the western side of the state. When you're driving down I-94 and you see all that yellow sweet clover, that is a great nectar producing plant for the beekeepers. Another reason is the number of canola acres that's grown. Canola is a really good crop for honeybees to be able. It's one of the last real row crops that gets a lot of great nectar flow for the bees. And so beekeepers really like being around those canola fields.
See, now I would think, and wouldn't you, Bridgette, and maybe just because I don't know a lot about honeybees, but the cold weather would prohibit them from our state being #1.
They're like a snowbird. They don't winter here.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, that's
Exactly.
They go south. I mean, Rogan, I'm sure you're familiar with that with a lot of the beekeepers and commercial keepers in North Dakota. They just pack them up and haul them south, right?
Yep. So commercial beekeepers do a few different things. Generally, when they're coming into the state is usually mid to late April into early May. Then kind of June into August is really the peak nectar flow and honey producing time point. And then what they end up doing is right about this time, or some of them a few weeks even earlier, once you start hitting that beginning of October, they'll do one of a couple different things. Some of them take them directly south into areas like Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and they'll kind of keep them over winter down there. And then what all the beekeepers are really trying to do is get them out to California in January and February for the almond pollination. That's where they're making a lot of money, is on their pollination services. Other beekeepers will take their colonies from North Dakota and they'll overwinter them in modified potato sheds, which are over in Idaho. That's a really common thing because you're about Idaho, where you're at is midway between North Dakota and California. So you kind of get a midway point, overwinter them in these sheds, controlled temperatures. You can kind of have control over some of the more factors of the overwintering. Then you take them south down to California for the almonds. And then you even have a few beekeepers that stay within the state. But when they're staying within the state, they're doing modified overwintering in sheds up in North Dakota. So there's a few beekeepers that have built sheds in North Dakota. We'll keep them in North Dakota and then send them down to California in, late December, early January before the almond bloom starts.
And
Sure.
I've got an email question here real quick, Bridgette, from one of our listeners asking, ask your guest or during his research, how many times has he been stung?
It's occupational hazard when you're
Sure.
working with bees. So
Right.
I don't have an
Okay.
exact number. More than a lot,
Right.
or more than a little, less than a ton. I mean,
Okay.
it's just something. When I go out and work bees, it's generally, a handful of times. Sometimes, I think the most in a day has been 30 or so. Which
Oh.
that was a little bit of a tough day.
I
But
bet.
for the most part, it's less than 10. And depends really on how I'm working, the number of colonies I'm working, what overall protective equipment I'm wearing. Sometimes I'm trying to be quick and I'm not wearing the best protection, and I'm going to take a few more that day. But
Right.
that's just kind of what you sign up for when you're working honeybees.
Do you get used to it? Like kind of
You
like a
do.
mosquito bite. Oh, no big deal.
I have my few choice words that I say out in the yard, and then I move on with life.
All
and,
right.
and usually I couldn't, at the end of the day, there might be one or two that I can feel, but for the most part, after 5 minutes, I can't even tell you exactly where I got stung.
Oh, wow.
You have said colonies,
hmm
and I want to know, is there a difference between a colony and a hive? Just for clarification, what is what, or are they the same?
Yeah, so this is a somewhat hot topic and point of contention with some honeybee research community. I personally don't really care. It's been beaten into me by a previous advisor. Colony is what the bees are. The bees with the queen, the workers, that is what a colony is. The hive is the woodenware, essentially. So when you see them out on the landscape, some people use them interchangeably. Technically speaking, a colony is the actual bees. The hive is the box with the frames inside of it.
So then a commercial beekeeper could have multiple colonies, is what you're saying, because it could be multiple sites that they might have the worker bees and a queen.
Yeah, so what happens is the commercial beekeepers, usually they'll put, they'll have their apiary. And so you'll have your apiary on the landscape, you'll have a pallet. Really what it equates to is one colony per hive. You never really have multiple colonies, but you might combine colonies into one hive, but then it will equate down to one colony because you'll just have one queen eventually.
Oh, more questions to come. And for those of you who have them, give us a call on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. We are talking with Dr. Rogan Tokach with NDSU all about honeybee research. Lots of sweet questions to come after we touch on the bottom of the hour news. We'll be right back. Hey, are you getting your fall burn down done for weed control for the 2026 growing season? Make sure you look at Vita from Gowan, USA. That can truly add to your multiple modes of action that you're trying to use on the field to fight things like water hemp and kochia, because that battle isn't getting any easier. Again, that's Vita from Gowan, USA. And also, take a little look at Peterson Farm Seed. They were part of our Here We Grow project this year. They brought us a wheat seed that was raised for commercial production, so it's going back out into seed next year for farmers. And we really thank Peterson Farm Seed for being a part of a great project this past year. Our guest in studio today is Dr. Rogan Tokach. He's with NDSU, and we're talking all about honeybees. Okay, so Rogan, one question that I get from folks quite a lot. When you're doing research, what are you researching? Because it feels like everybody else only wants to ask about colony collapse. But what other things do you research?
Yeah, so there's a few things that I'm really trying to focus on researching. And one of the things that I've been trying to do, especially early on, is go out and be able to speak with some of the commercial beekeepers in the area to first of all figure out what they're interested in having researched, because it doesn't do me a whole lot of good to do applied research on things they're not interested in implementing. And so when I've been doing these talks with a lot of these commercial beekeepers, and it's been awesome because they've been so receptive, they're so excited to have somebody finally in North Dakota to be doing honeybee research, they come up with a few different things. And some of them I'm always like, oh, I can help you out a lot. And some of them I can't help them out with quite as much. But one of the big issues is called a parasitic mite, varroa mites. And varroa mites are a huge problem. They're feeding on the hemolymph of developing bees, which is essentially the insect blood. They're feeding on the fat bodies of adult bees, and they're also transmitting different viruses within the colony. And it used to be that we had pretty good control of varroa mites, and especially in recent years, it's been a real struggle. And one of the most commonly used acaricides or miticides that was used really has begun to have some resistance developed to it. So there's a lot of big push to find new sustainable varroa mite management practices that beekeepers can utilize throughout the entire season.
Interesting. And question as well. This is from one of our listeners as well. Are there any challenges with beekeeping up here opposed to other parts of the country?
So there are a few challenges, of course, one of them being, you do have to move them in and out of the state. And so moving bees is hard on the bees naturally, but because of the great forage that you get up here, it is worth it for beekeepers to come up here because of the great honey production availability. One of the big challenges, though, is with that honey production is the price of honey is not what, of course, the beekeepers get, because it has to go through the packers and the packers. So what you're seeing out there on the retail shelves is nowhere near the price that the beekeepers are getting. And another big issue that beekeepers are having to deal with, and with that honey production up here, is that there's a lot of fake honey that's being brought into the country. And so one of the things is that honey is being bought, through these third parties. And it's a huge problem that commercial beekeepers are having to deal with that's driving down honey prices, is essentially honey that's been adulterated with different kinds of sugars, and it's kind of been brought down and reduced in overall honey quality, but it's tough to really test for that. And so there's no real standard, and so beekeepers that are selling this pure honey are being undercut in the market by some of this faux honey that gets in through some of these ports.
Now, research has shown that over the last 20 years, our globally our temperatures have risen. There's a lot of conspiracy theorists on why, but let's assume that our temperatures have risen over the last 20 years. How does that affect the bee colony with the warmer temperatures globally?
So it really does impact the overall seasonality of beekeeping. And so just to bring it into perspective, talking about that varroa mite, which is that parasitic mite that is so devastating to honeybee colonies, it doesn't matter if you're commercial, hobby beekeeper, all of these beekeepers are having a real struggle with controlling for varroa mites. The longer that it stays warm, varroa mites reproduce in honeybee brood, which is essentially say while the honeybee is pupating, if you can equate it to essentially a cocoon like a moth or butterfly will do with a chrysalis, that is kind of the pupation. The mite is reproducing during that time, and while it's doing that, it's being protected in the colony with wax cell capping, which makes killing these mites very difficult. The other real big problem with this is that the longer that it stays warm, the longer the queen will continue to lay. She really needs some colder temperatures to start reducing the amount of eggs she lays and preparing that colony for winter. So if she's continually laying later into the year, that's allowing mites to continually reproduce longer and later into the season as well. And that's really reducing the overall effectiveness of some of these mite treatments, because the mite treatments are most effective when there's really no brood within the colony.
So, Rogan, there was a recent news article, and I apologize, I don't have it handy. I was looking for it. Wasn't there a new miticide that was registered for use in the colonies to try to specifically target that varroa mite?
Yes, there was a very interestingly new product that got developed that's using RNAi technology, which is going in and essentially knocking out a gene within that varroa mite. And as one beekeeper so eloquently put it at the latest North Dakota Beekeepers Association meeting, it's essentially like birth control for mites. And so while it doesn't kill the mite, but it stops the mite from reproducing. And so it goes in and knocks out something specific for that mite reproduction. And so the mites aren't dying, but they're not also reproducing. So it's very beneficial in that sense. And so that's using that double-stranded RNA, and it's a very interesting new product that's coming out there on the market that just got approved by the EPA. And so we're interested to see how that can factor into some of our other mite management strategies.
One of the things that comes up a lot is you hear people talk about how we need to allow more dandelions and whatnot for our pollinator species. Okay, I've come to understand that dandelions are pretty much like the junk food for bees, and that we can do better. You mentioned clover, sweet clover, and canola. What are other good things that we should have besides crappy dandelions for our bees and for other pollinators?
So one of the things that's best to have if you're looking at building some kind of pollinator plant garden or something is having things that bloom at different time points of the year. So especially getting things, if you want to cease as much dandelions as you need, getting some things that bloom really early in the year, because that's the time point where the bees don't have much forage available on the land. And so some people say, oh, keep the dandelions because junk food is sometimes better than no food. And so the thought process would be is if you do provide more adequate habitat that has some early sprouting things that these bees can go and get pollen and nectar from, but then also having things that are late. So goldenrod is one of those great plants that blooms later in the year that beekeepers sometimes rely on. But not all the time does something bloom early and late. And so really building these pollinator things that are providing forage for those bees the entire length of the time period while they're in North Dakota is really going to allow them to survive and really thrive in this environment.
Well, I can tell you that a lot of farmers would really appreciate that within your research, if you could help to update the website for the North Dakota Department of Ag to make sure we know where all the beehives are from time to time, that would be awesome. But I know that's probably outside your scope of responsibility.
They are working, and Samantha Brunner over at North Dakota Department of Ag, who I've worked pretty closely with as one of the head state apiarists, she has been working quite diligently to update that. And so it's really working with the beekeepers to try to get them to provide, as accurate of a position for those colonies as well. So it's kind of a two-way street, but she's really working on that. And if you do look up the NDB apiary map, you can see most of the colonies that are registered. I think it's over 95% of the commercial beekeepers have been able to register their colonies on that map. So really working on trying to get that map as updated as possible.
Great.
That's outstanding. One last question for me is, when it comes to farmers or commercial beekeepers, apiaries, do you need people to be in contact with you because you need them for research, or have you made a lot of those contacts already?
I've been working on making a lot of those contacts already, especially in the commercial beekeeping side. I was fortunate to be able to go to North Dakota Beekeepers Association last week, actually, and they had their annual meeting, and they've been so welcoming, and I'm so excited for the support that they've been able to already provide me. So I've already been in contact with some of them, being able to ask them, hey, can I come out and try some work on some of your colonies? And, it might sound like a lot of colonies when I say I want to do a research project on, say, 250 colonies. But when a beekeeper has over 15,000, it's maybe sometimes a drop in the bucket for them. And they're really interested in seeing what that research provides.
All right. Well, thanks, Rogan. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you with any questions, what's the best way?
Email's probably the best way. You can find it on the North Dakota State website, or it's just my first and last name, rogan.tokach at ndsu.edu. And that's probably the best way to get in touch with me.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Rogan, for joining us this afternoon. Appreciate it. It's always nice to learn some more about bees.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me.
No doubt. And try not to get stung so much. All right, when we come back, we're going to have our weather trivia question for your chance to win one of our beautiful Darter plastic rain gauges. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. And it's time for our weekly weather trivia. And again, you got a chance to win one of our Darter plastic rain gauges. And today's weather trivia, let's see if you can get it. All right, so every state in our country has some type of drought conditions except one. There's only one state that does not have drought conditions currently, and that does include quote-unquote abnormally dry from the Climate Prediction Center, or the Drought Monitor Index. So again, there's one state without any drought conditions. What state is it? Bridgette, any clue, any guesses?
I can't because I know the answer.
Do you? Are you sure?
Yeah, it's Alberta, but
So yeah, there's only one state. Now, North Dakota has just a couple of slivers of abnormally dry. So we cannot include North Dakota, although really if you want to split hairs, there's really no drought conditions over the state. But according to the Drought Monitor Index, we do have at least a couple of slivers of abnormally dry. So again, there's only one state without any drought conditions. What state is it? 701-293-9000 for your chance to win one of our Darter plastic rain gauges. And I can hear the typing, the Google search going on right now. There's an easy way to find. There's an easy way to find it, though. I'm not going to tell you how.
well, I can't. If I say anything, I'm just
Right?
going to give it away. People are going to go look. So I can't. Never mind. It's all good.
Yeah.
Light them up on the JLA insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. Remember, when you have questions about your crop insurance, you're going to want to call JLA Insurance. Talk to Nate Thorsrud because he's a farmer too. So he understands what's going on for your farm as well as what needs to be taken care of for your crop insurance. So don't hesitate to reach out to him and us.
Yeah. So while we're waiting, Bridgette, you want to hit on a couple of ag topics there?
So a couple of things that are going on. One of them is the fact that John Deere has a new acquisition. It's called Gus, Guss. So what's Gus? Well, it's not a guy, that's for sure. Gus is automation. It is a high-value autonomy company. They have had a collaborative joint venture since 2022, and it manufactures autonomous sprayers. These sprayers are supervised by a single operator. They use GPS and LiDAR as well as proprietary software to navigate through orchards and vineyards to precisely spray crops. A single operator can manage up to 8 different machines. Now, John Deere says that more than 250 Gus machines are globally deployed and have sprayed up to 2.6 million acres, and that's more than 500,000 hours of application time that has been done. So the name, well, it's going to retain its brand, its employees, and their manufacturing facility in California. But with John Deere behind them, they have more access to capital to fuel the innovation that they want to have. This technology has faced some struggles to achieve broad adaptation, and that comes from growers and their reluctance to take on new practices and technologies. It's getting better, but of course, John Deere, as a global brand name and equipment, will certainly help to bring that reputation up just a little bit and get folks to wanting to use it. Now, within their portfolio, they have a lot of reasons to build confidence, such as connecting machines and knowing where the machines might be in the field and having the ability to document, have we sprayed this row or not? So we look forward to seeing what Gus can do for you in the field.
All right. And we've got a caller on line one. Caller, what's your name?
Sue.
Sue, welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. What's your guess? What's the only state without any drought conditions?
You know what? I want to say Alaska.
Wow, you are 100% correct. Good job. Now, was that strictly a guess, or did you do a little research on that?
Oh, I did research.
All right, good deal. Good deal.
I have to say.
Well, Sue, congratulations. We're going to put you on hold. Addison, he'll get all your information. Do you know where our station is at?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just stop by any day between regular business hours, Monday through Friday, and pick that up.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Yeah, all right, congratulations, Sue. All right. So now,
I think it's.
did you know that, Bridget?
I was taking a pretty good guess at that one,
Okay.
and you also had put some criteria on there about abnormally dry conditions, etc. What I was gonna tell folks is, well, if you're looking, you just go to the U.S. Drought Monitor, but that sort of gives away where to go
Exactly.
find the
I
answer. So I
know.
can't do that.
Yeah.
Um,
I was kind of surprised by Alaska. Not real. I shouldn't have been because I mean they're right in that target zone for moisture, and it's pretty rare that Alaska has any drought conditions. So
I do I do think it's important for folks to realize that when they win a rain gauge, or if they already have one, they're good for measuring snowfall. And we're getting close to the winter months, so pull that center tube out. You can still collect the snowfall measurements
right.
on our Weather and Ag and Focus rain gauges, and then give us a shout. You can drop us an email again, weather at Flag Family or ag at Flag Family. Let us know what you're getting for whether it's rainfall, snowfall, etc. All through the season, Dean uses that information to report back to the National Weather Service.
Absolutely.
So very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a little bit of rain in the forecast, but not much. We've got a dry day today outside of a little drizzle here and there with temps in the 50s. We'll see more showers come in late tonight, and it looks like overnight towards sunrise. And then we'll see that end tomorrow morning, and then another round coming in late in the day tomorrow. So that'll be our best chance of rain. And total rainfall in the FM area up and down the valley into Lakes Country, only about a quarter inch or so. The heavier rain with this system is going to be out in the western part of the state, where many of those areas will get up to an inch to an inch and a half. Then we'll dry things out over the weekend. Now, there could be an isolated shower or two in the southern valley on Saturday, but other than that, it looks dry. And the start of next week looks pretty dry as well. Great news for harvest. So for Bridgette and myself, I want to thank everybody for joining us here on Weather and Ag and Focus. The Jay Thomas Show, it's coming up next.